Our session today, we'll look at the valuation of bonds. So the values of bonds will change substantially over time. So many financial institutions will have to consider buying or selling bonds to monitor their values. So in this unit, we will discuss the valuation process, the factors that will influence the prices of bonds. By the time we are done with this chapter, we must be able to explain how bonds are priced and identify the factors that affect the prices of bonds, and also discussing the sensitivity or elasticity of bond prices to interest rates. All right, so we look at the valuation process. So to start with, bond valuation is very similar to the concept of capital budgeting, in that we are evaluating the present values of the bond. So the value or present value of the bond is simply the coupon payment over the discount factor plus coupon payment plus par value at the end. So we did look at some of the valuations last time. Okay, can you hear me? So the valuation process is what we're going to look at. Okay, so when we're dealing with bonds, like I said, there are different forms in which they come. They come in forms of fixed income securities that are backed by government, and others just to raise capital. So you need to understand how to value bonds to make an investment decisions. So the basis upon which bond prices are made typically would be number one, depending on the periodic coupon payments. So these ones are fixed interest payments that are made either annually or semi-annually. And second, basis upon which a bond uh, is premised is on the par value repayment. So this is where the amount is paid back to the investor upon maturity. So like I said, we use the present value formula to calculate the bond. Okay, this is the formula that we use. So if you want to calculate the value of the bond, it is simply the present value of the cash flows over the discount factors. So now we need to understand the relationships between the bond and the price relationship. So when the yield increases, meaning the bond price will fall. But when the yield decreases, the bond price will rise. So this basically happens when you have fixed coupon payments. These ones will become less attractive when new bonds offer higher returns, so that the price must fall to increase the yield to match the market. So we'll look at the calculation of bonds, but the other sensitive elements that we are going to look at that we didn't look at in the previous class. So let's look at an example where we have a bond. Consider a bond whose par value is 1,000 and pays $100 at the end of each year as coupons for 3 years remaining until maturity. And assuming that the prevailing annualized yield on other bonds with similar characteristics is 12%. So in this case, our appropriate price of the bond can be determined as follows. Number one, the future cash flows of investors would purchase a bond for 100 kwacha in year one, 100 in year two, and 1,100 at the end of the year three, which is simply 100 plus the coupon payments. So how do we calculate the value of the bond? So number one, we calculate the discount factors, which is 100 over 12% plus 100 over 12% plus 100 over 12% in year two. Then we just add the 1,000 there. So the value of the bond comes out like that. Now we have a formula that we'll use later on to simplify the computation of these bonds. Okay, so bonds have semi-annual compoundings and annual compoundings. So bonds have a formula that we follow when we're computing them. So the value of the bond is given by the coupon value, the present value annuity, then plus the maturity value, present value factor. So we looked at this in our previous class on the computation of the bonds. Are we together so far? Cecilia, are you there? Yeah. So we have an annual bond and a semi-annual bond. So to calculate the coupon value, we need to understand that there's a coupon interest there, and this is the face value. And this is our present value annuity and our present value fund. So to calculate, we're going to look at the formula. So suppose we have a bond. Suppose we have a bond. This bond has a par value or maturity value of 1,000, and it has our required rate of return, which is 13%. So we need to calculate the value of the bond. So using that formula, we can calculate the value of the bond as follows. Value of the bond, say it is equal to coupon value, present value, annuity, as the maturity value, present value factor. Are we together so far?
Yes, please.
So there's also what is called the current yield. The current yield is the actual return on the bond. It's given by the coupon value over the value of the bond. So whenever the value of the bond, okay, the selling price of the bond is more than the maturity value or the face value, we call that a what? A par bond. So this can only happen if the coupon interest is more than the market rate. Sometimes the value of the bond is exactly equal to the face value of the bond. So this one is called a premium bond if it's more than. But if it's exactly equal to the value of the bond, it's called a par bond. So a par bond exists when the coupon interest is equal to the market interest rate. Then we also have what we call a discount bond when the selling price of the bond is less than the maturity or the face value of the bond. So this is called a discount bond. The discount bond occurs when our coupon interest is less than the market rate. So in an instance where you're given that our maturity value or face value of the bond is 1,000, our coupon interest rate is 12%. Our market interest rate is 10%. And our time to duration is 3 years. Already from the interest rate, what type of a bond is this? It's a par bond, discount bond, or premium bond. The coupon interest is more than the market rate. So this is already a premium bond, as you can see. Then to find the value of our coupon, we multiply the coupon interest times what? The face value, the maturity value. That's the only job that this coupon has. So in this case, we're going to multiply 12% times 1,000, which will give us 120. So here we have 120. So that's where the job ends here with the 120. Then we calculate our interest factor. Interest factor in this case will simply be calculated based on the market rate and the time in period. So the present value interest factor will therefore be equal to 1 over 1 plus AD to the power n time. So in this case, since our KD is 10%, so we're going to have 1 over 1.10 to the power 3. What do we get? 0.75. So this is what we put here, 0.751. Then to find the value of the present value annuity factor, we simply subtract 1 minus the interest factor divided by the R. 1 minus 0.751 divided by the interest factor, which is 10%. What do we get? 2.41, is it? What do we get?
2.49.
2.49. So when you compute that, you put it here, 2.49. What do we get as the value of the bond?
We are getting 1,048.8.
1048.8.
Yes, 0.8.
So what kind of a bond is this? It's a premium bond because it's more than,
It's a premium bond.
yeah. Then how do you find the current yield? I give you the formula. What is the current yield? Coupon value over the selling price of the bond times 100. So what are we getting? What is the coupon value? 120. What is our selling price of the bond? 1048.8 times 100. What are we getting?
11.44%.
So 11.44%. So this is the current yield. What did I say? What is the current yield? Current yield is the actual investment or return that investors expect. It is the financial term that we use to express the annual income or interest earned from an investment in a bond. So it is expressed as a percentage So now, suppose we're asked to calculate the value of this bond in the semi-annual basis, where you're getting money every 6 months. So what's the value of the semi-annual bond? So semi means 2. In this case, we're going to say our M is 2. So the implication of semi simply means that the interest rates, whether it is a coupon interest or the market interest rate, we divide it by 2. And the time, we're going to do multiply it by 2. So what was our interest? Coupon interest was what percentage? 12%. So what's a half of 12%? 6%.
6%.
Okay. Then we go to our market rate was how much? 10%. What becomes our new market rate? 5%, right? And the time was what? How many years? 3 years. For time, you multiply by 2. So the periods will be 6 periods because you'll be getting interest twice a year. So in the 3 years, we're going to get 6 periods. So this is for our coupon interest. This is for our KD, which is a market rate, and this is for the time. So the job of the small I is to calculate the interest. So small I times the face value will get our coupon value. So we're going to use 6% times 1,000. What are we going to get? 60. All right? So instead of 120, it's as good as halving it. We're going to get 60. So the value of the bond, here we're going to put 60 plus 1,000. Okay, somebody help us. How do we calculate the interest factor? So present value factor would be 1 over 1 plus KD or R, the power time. Any questions so far?
Not yet.
Okay, so if that is the case, so how do we calculate the present value interest factor? 1 over 1.0 what? 0 what? 0.6 to the 5.
0.5
Yeah, 0.5 to the power what?
to the power 6.
Good. So what do we get? So you use the KD. The job of the KD is for the interest factors. Okay? The job of um the small I is simply for what? For to calculate the coupon interest.
So here I'm getting 0.746.
0.746. 746, okay? So what do we do with the 0.746? We use it to calculate the annuity factor. How do we calculate the annuity factor?
One minus present factor over R.
Yes, 1 minus present factor over R. So what we have here, 1 minus 0.746 over our R, which is what? 0.05. What we get? So what is our annuity factor?
I'm
If
getting
others will
5,
carry on, Mary.
5.08.
5.08. So 5.08, we put it here. So what is the value of the bond when you calculate it?
I'm getting 1050.8.
Okay, 1050.8. Okay, so the difference here is that the more you compound, the higher the figure. It's still a premium bond, right? Are we together?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Okay, so what are some of the 5 risks associated with bond valuation? So bond valuation has associated risks that are there. So these risks include number one, the interest rate risk, okay? The credit risk, reinvestment risk. So there are risks that are involved in a bond valuation that we must take note of that are important to understand. So we have one which we call the interest uh, rate risks. So the interest rate risk, this is a risk that changes in the market interest. So it will affect the value of the bond because when interest rate will rise, what will happen? The bond with lower rates will become less attractive, like I said. So this will cause the prices to fall. So for instance, a bond and interest rates that have there's an inverse relationship. They go like this. Okay, so a bond that is valued at 1,000 today would be worth less if the market interest rates will increase tomorrow. So the other factor that will affect is the credit risk or default risk. So this is a risk that a bond issuer will be unable to make the interest payments or repay the principal at maturity. That's another risk. It's unsecured. So bonds are usually issued at with lower credit ratings. They are riskier, but may be undervalued due to increased risk of default. So there's a risk that the issuer may not pay. The other risks that are associated with bond valuation are reinvestment risks and inflation risks. So what are reinvestment risks? So reinvestment risks are to do with what? The risk when interest principal payments are received before maturity and must be reinvested at a lower interest rate. So here, the impact on valuation is that the expected return may be either overstated if the future cash flows are reinvested at a lower interest rate than assumed. You can also have the risk of inflation. So inflation risk is another risk that assess that inflation may erode the purchasing power of the bond in the future. So those that have invested in bonds, sometimes you discover that before you buy a bond, you need to ask what the inflation rate is, because if inflation is higher than expected, the real return on the bond will be lower than projected because of the issue of inflation. It will counterreact. The other risk that you should expect is that of liquidity risk. So liquidity risk is the risk that a bond cannot be sold quickly without a significant price um, concession due to lack of market volatility. That is, there are many risks associated, but just wanted you to know the four risks that are there. Okay, so quickly, let's look at the 2021 exam and we calculate this together. So we have question number 4. Okay, the A and part B. So discuss the 4 risks associated with bond valuation, 20 marks, and 5 marks, a bond with a face value of 1,000, coupon 10%, and cost of debt is 12%, and time to maturity is 4 years. Calculate the value of the bond. Okay, so question number 1, what risks are there? What are some of the risks that we discussed?
Interest risks.
Interest, Number 2,
Credit risks.
credit risk. Number
And
3,
then there's inflation risk.
inflation risk. What other risk is there?
I think I saw reinvestment risk. Is it
Investment risk.
reinvestment?
What other risk is there? Okay, so please, these are 20 marks, so you need to explain in depth, okay? The risks that are there. So 4 marks, 20 marks. Then the bond has a face value of 1,000, coupon rate 10%, cost of debt 12%, and maturity 2 years, 4 years. Let's calculate the value of the bond. So what are we given in here? What is the 1,000?
We have the face value,
Face value.
1,000.
What else are we given?
Then we are given the coupon rate,
Which is our what?
10%.
Our
So
small
that's our small I. Yes.
Then
Cost of debt. KD.
Our RI is
KD.
12%. Oh,
Those.
And also the
Time.
period.
Yes, 4 years. Yes.
4 years, okay. So what is the value of the bond? Value of the bond is equal to what? Capital I.
Capital I, then PVA, close brackets, plus M, then open brackets, PVF.
Okay. So what is our I? How do you find the capital I?
So our capital I will be 0.10 times 1,000. That's like 100, eh? How much? Oops. Calculator is this.
So that is our 100. Then how do you calculate the input factor? One over 1 plus 3.
1/1 plus kb to the power 6.
So what do we put here?
So that would be 1 plus 0.12.
0.12.
About
Sissy.
what do we get?
The power 4.
Oh, so what's the answer?
0.635.
0.635.
635.
Okay, so what is the present value annuity now? One
We
minus
get that will be 1 minus 1 minus interest.
what do we get? What do we get?
3.042.
3.042.
042.
3.042. So
042, yeah.
so what's the value of the bond?
Uh, 939.2.
939.2. What kind of a bond is this?
The discount bond.
Discount bond. So how do you find the current yield?
I think I missed this part. I will need help on the current.
It's a coupon value over the value of the bond times 100. So what was our coupon value? 100 over the selling price of the bond, 939 point what? 2 times 100. What do we get?
So I'm finding 10.65.
10.65. So that's the value of That's the coupon value. So we also sometimes are not given the market rate. We can call that the yield to maturity. So yield to maturity is equal to what? Our coupon payment What's the formula for the yield to maturity? What's the formula for the yield to maturity? Who remembers? I beamed the formula into maturity. The coupon payment plus the value of the bond okay equity value minus value of the bond over 3 over 2 VM plus equity value divided by 2. So suppose we're given a 10-year bond which is issued after 2 years at an interest rate of 10% and is selling for 1,200. What is the value of the bond? If the value of the bond is selling for 1,200 and this is a 10-year bond, okay? And the coupon interest is 10%, which is issued at par value 1,000 kwacha. What is the value of the bond? So here, the coupon interest is 10% of 1,000, you put 100 there. And here, the value of the bond is 1,000, and that's the selling price of the bond is 1,200. The 3 is part of the formula, divided by 3. Oh, okay, sorry, this is N. So N is a 10-year bond issued after 2 years. So it's you put 8 there as a period. Okay, the rest is found in the formula here.